One of the biggest upgrades in the classic truck market is going to bigger brakes and bigger wheels and tires. The problem with that is these spindles on these old trucks, they weren't designed to carry that kind of load. That's where CPP's new X10 spindle and hub package comes in. Based on late model, full-size GM truck parts, this is a two-piece design. It's a spindle and it's also got a hub with internal bearings that are all sealed and ready to go. The hub bolts to the spindle. You don't have to touch it. You don't have to grease it. You don't have to pack it. You don't have to guess whether you got the torque right on the spindle nut. It all just goes together and it's done. But what's really cool about this is the strength of the hub. These are much larger tapered bearings than what you'd find on the stock C10s or even on like a Mustang 2 kit if you've went that route in the past. These are designed for big heavy trucks, big heavy wheels, big brakes. So they're right up your alley if you're making a big brake or a big wheel swap. Now what we've got in front of us today is a kit for the earlier C10 trucks. These start in 63, go all the way to 87. The difference is GM made a couple changes along the way. For instance, they went to disc brakes in 71 and 72. Those two trucks were similar. So there's a couple components you'll need, a couple components you won't need depending on the year of your truck. And like all CPP components, they're made to work with a variety of aftermarket parts. So if you've got a set of Willwood brakes or a set of Bear brakes on your truck already, you don't need to get rid of them. You can use them with these spindles. So we're working on a 71 C10 today, and what's going to be nice about this project is they've already got a modular spindle from CPP on this. It's a 2.5-inch drop. All the dimensions are the same as their X10 spindle, so we're going to keep all the geometry the same. It's also got a 13-inch big brake kit on it as well, so we're just going to hang some stuff, move some stuff out of the way, swap the spindles, and bolt it all right back up. So let's get started. We're going to reuse that. Bam! That's how you do it. There it is. So before we throw our new X10 spindle on our truck, we wanted to point out the differences with the earlier ball joints and the earlier tie rod end. What's going to happen is if you've got the earlier style, your cotter pin holes aren't going to line up when you put your castle nuts on there. It's going to be real obvious that it ain't going to work. The tie rod end, on the other hand, it doesn't even fit in the taper, so there's no question that's incorrect. So if you've got an earlier truck, pre-73, you're just going to want to check all that stuff before you bolt everything in. So with our new spindle in place, you can see the relationship between the hole in the ball joint for the cotter pin and the spindle. It's where it's supposed to be as opposed to the one we had on the bench there a minute ago, the earlier version. All right, now we're gonna drop the upper control arm down into our spindle, get the taper seated. It's not seated completely, but it's seated in the spindle enough to where we can see that our hole for our cotter pin is going to line up with our castle nut like the bottom ball joint did. Verifying that we've got the correct 73 to 87 ball joints already installed on our pickup truck. Okay. There you go. There we go. So installing the hub on the spindle is as easy as sliding it up into the register and tightening the 3 bolts from the back side. One of the last things we're going to do is install the outer tie rod ends back onto the spindle. We're going to run the nut up snug, install a cotter pin. All right, one of the last things that we need to do here is mount our caliper. The bracket's still attached, so we're just going to slide it over the rotor and bolt it back in place on our new spindle. All right, so running the lug nuts back on and getting this truck on the ground, we're about wrapped up. As you can see, the spindle swap was super easy. My hands are clean. I didn't even have to get the grease out, which is really nice. If your truck's pretty clean underneath, you could do this thing without even washing your hands. This side took us about 15 minutes. If you were doing brakes and you had to change the ball joints and stuff like that, might take you a little longer, but all in all, this is a half day's job. And a huge upgrade in the capabilities of your vehicle, the reliability of your front end, and upgrading your brake and wheel package all at the same time.